There's a power in the word independence, but what does independence look like in the context of advertising in a world where many would argue there are ultimately 2 to 3 players that run advertising in the world? What is the role of the word independent? And joining us now to speak a little bit more about what it is to be independent, the power of independence, and the future of what it is to be independent now and the future, basically just independence, is Dermot Latimer, who's the founder and CEO of the Iconic Media Group, which is a fully integrated agency that is independent.
It is.
And tell me about what it means as an agency to be independent and the world within which you operate.
I think independence. It's. You're right. There's 4 major players globally who own the advertising industry, for lack of a better word. I think independence is important because, for 2 reasons. I think independence gives a brand or a business authenticity, but it also gives them bravery.
Yeah.
And I think these bigger agencies will have authentic people in them. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying authentic people don't work for the bigger groups. But they're effectively, at some point, corporate directive and personal authenticity will come into conflict. At that point, corporate directive will tend to win out 99.9% of the time. So having an independent, authentic agency who care and have a relationship with the brand or business can really impact in terms of driving performance.
In a world where, every day people are expected to perform more, one would naturally think that ultimately what's going to happen is the people who are brave are going to be the people who actually survive in a brave new world.
Yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, what we've seen in terms of business growth is that as you grow, and I had a very insight with a dynamic CMO when we first began our journey, was to talk about we are independent, and independent gives us bravery, it gives us authenticity, it gives us agility. And his response was, so you're a puppy, but eventually you're going to grow into a dog, and you want to get bigger surely as a business, and he's not wrong. But what it allows you to do from an independent perspective to drive bravery is to almost sense check the brand and business on an ongoing basis. So brands can be brave, but the bigger the brand, the bigger the agency, the more corporate directive globally comes into play. And at that point, risk becomes a very real factor in terms of the message you send out, in terms of how you represent either an agency or a brand. To constantly reinforce the need for bravery in this world, because we live in a world now where the lines have grayed. Where does digital stop and technology begin? Where does TV stop? We live in South Africa, a country that is still predominantly TV driven in terms of media spend, but we talk about 2 screens now. So yes, I'm in front of my TV, but I've got my mobile phone in front of me. I'm on Facebook during ad breaks or what. So those lines have really blurred, which drives caution from both agency and brand. So the brands and I think the agencies that continue to be brave to do the things that maybe are not expected of them continuously, but to give that target audience, that user an experience. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's the ability today to have personalized conversations at scale. So one campaign doesn't necessarily need to have one message anymore. You can have multiple messages, and you can be brave in various formats. So I think being an independent allows us a little bit of leeway or license to push that bravery agenda. Not all brands sign up to it, and they'll very often in a conversation they will collaboratively tell us to pull back on that bravery a little bit. But I think
that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got to deliver and you've got to perform for the business and the brand. But I think having an authentic relationship, which I think as an independent you can have. I've got very personal relationships with leaders, not just CMOs, but brand managers and brand advocates. It's being able to sit around the table and say, you're missing an opportunity to be brave here. You're missing an opportunity to have a personal conversation that tells your story in a very different way. Take it or leave it, but the opportunity is there. And I think we we are fortunate enough to be able to have those conversations on a
Absolutely.
continuous basis. Yeah.
So I guess the final piece of advice that you could give us is around finding the sweet spot between being brave but also understanding the world within which you operate, and accepting to a certain degree but also challenging to a certain degree, and how you find that sweet spot's probably a good note to leave it on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ogilvy used to have an expression years ago, I'm not sure if they still do, where they refer to logic and magic. And I think that's the key thing, is that bravery and authenticity are great, but you've got to start every conversation with any client or any brand at what is your problem, what is your business problem. Lots of what we refer to in our business as fantasy and or creativity is good. I mean, the data is good on creatively led campaigns, are more perform better financially than any other campaign. So the creative is important. You referenced before starting the interview of the Droga 5 acquisition. I mean, for a management consulting firm like Accenture to legitimize creativity, it's unheard of. But I think that fantasy without function is a problem. You need to always begin at strategy. So I think the advice is bravery and authenticity is fantastic. Creative is necessary, and it is a core starting point of any strong campaign. But before all of that, you need to identify the problem, what success looks like for the business and brand, develop the strategy that's going to affect that, and then come up with the best creative solution to address that business problem.
Fantastic, and if you do that, you'll be like Dermot Latimer, who's the founder and CEO of the iconic media group. I love that. Logic and magic, going back to those sort of fundamental thoughts, and certainly understanding the world within which you operate, but challenging it as well. That's
Absolutely.
a beautiful thought. Dermot, thank you so much for stopping by.
Pleasure, thanks for having me.